The bookies have had an absolute stinker with their championship predictions, in my opinion. We're going to be going through all of the bookies' predictions and then comparing them to my predictions as well on each team in the championship. If you're a championship fan, please do hit subscribe on this channel. We do daily championship content, so it'd be very greatly appreciated if you could all click subscribe on the channel. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers, so if every single one of you watching this video wouldn't mind clicking that subscribe button. If you like the championship, this is the place to be. Please do help me out and hit that subscribe button, and do drop a like as well if you do go on to enjoy the video. So we'll start from going from the bottom of the table to the top of the table. Now the odds here are the odds for promotion, so whoever's got the lowest odds for promotion therefore is bottom of the league. So Oxford will actually have the worst odds for promotion, meaning that they are predicted, or the bookies think that they will go ahead and finish bottom in the championship, which I think is unbelievably harsh. And you've got a manager like Gary Rowett, who obviously knows the championship very well. To put Oxford rock bottom, things would have to go absolutely drastically wrong. Now, a lot of people will predict Oxford to be in the bottom three, I'd imagine, when you look at people's championship predictions. But I think this is very harsh to put on bottom of the table. I think when you look at Charlton next and their level with Portsmouth, we'll talk about Portsmouth in a second, but Charlton, you're expecting them to be right down there. Obviously, they got promoted through the playoffs in League One. Nathan Jones has done a fantastic job there, but there's no doubt Charlton are going to need a lot of reinforcement. Of course, it's all before the transfer window as well, so the bookies' predictions will change as it gets close to the start of the season, as will my personal championship opinions as well. They will change as the transfer window goes on, because obviously we need to see who's signing who and what kind of ambition clubs are showing. But Charlton, I think, fair enough that they're down there at the moment. We need to see what happens with their transfer business. But it's a big task for Charlton to be able to survive this championship season, which is going to be a very tough championship season, because the other clubs that we'll be discussing a bit later that got promoted are definitely going to be very competitive in the championship. So I think it is going to be difficult for Charlton, so you can understand why they're in 23rd. Now, the same odds as them, 33-1 for promotion, is Portsmouth. I genuinely am baffled at this, because I've been speaking a lot about Portsmouth in my other videos. I think Portsmouth will be comfortable. I think they'll be fine in mid-table, to be honest. I think they'll have a solid season. Obviously, they've lost a few players in terms of a couple of loan players going back, so that's maybe a reasoning behind it. But then you look at them, they've still got Bishop, who you'd hope would stay around. You got Murphy, and you do need to kind of replace a few loan players like Freddie Potts especially. But to put Portsmouth in 22nd place as the odds, I think it's honestly craziness. When you look at their home form as well in the Championship last season, Fratton Park is one of the toughest places to go to in the whole of the division. So in my opinion, it's absolutely ludicrous that Portsmouth are actually being put in the bottom three there. But let me know who's going to be in your bottom three as well in the Championship this season. Now, going on to the teams that have finished 21st to 19th according to the bookies, it is actually Preston in 21st, narrowly avoiding relegation. I kind of agree with that at the moment. I've spoke about Preston. I think they could potentially be in trouble. They're making a few moves in the transfer market. They've got rid of a few players as well. Emmet Reese being one of the players that have gone as well. Ledson, who's recently signed for Huddersfield. A few players that have been there for a number of years at Preston who've kind of, they're part of the furniture at Preston, which have obviously been moved on. You look at the way they've finished the back end of the season, almost getting relegated. You can understand the prediction of Preston being down there. Now, it is also worth saying, around these teams from, I think, anywhere between the bottom of the league all the way up to probably 16th, 17th. Honestly, I don't think there's a lot between these teams. I really don't think in ability-wise and overall performances. You look at last season, there's not a massive amount of quality difference, in my opinion, between all these teams. So Preston, I do think will be in and around there, in my personal opinion. Now, we've actually got QPR now in 20th, my team QPR, which, honestly, I think it's valid. I think it's valid. When you look at the situation with Martin Cifuentes, what's going on there, what actually is going on there. We're also going to be losing a few players. We have loan players that are going back, Ronnie Edwards, Koki Sato potentially going back as well. There's a lot up in the air with QPR, so you can understand at the moment with predictions, the prediction being QPR finishing quite low. Honestly, it's valid, and I'm, as a QPR fan going into the season, I'm a little bit concerned. I am a bit worried about relegation, and thinking we will be in a relegation battle this season. But obviously, we have a transfer window to try and fix things. We'll see what happens with the manager situation. I don't think Marty Cifuentes can come back from here, so it's just a bit of a nightmare situation, so I can honestly understand why we're predicted to finish so low down the table, which is a shame, but I honestly can't really argue it right now. As much as I want to argue it, I really can't. Now, Derby County, this is another one that's kind of surprised me. To have Derby in 19th, I would put them up a little bit more. I'd put them up to probably lower mid-table, maybe 15th, 16th, somewhere around there. I'd probably have Derby right now. You look at the job that John Eustace has done since he's taken over. You've got a manager in John Eustace, which has been to multiple different clubs now, and done a very good job, or exceeded expectations at every single one of them clubs. You look at Birmingham, Blackburn, everywhere this guy's been, he's had them punching above their weight, but by the time he's left them. Now, Derby County, they're definitely going to need reinforcements, and obviously John Eustace kind of already started to stamp his authority on the side. They're going to need to improve in terms of make more signings basically, and John Eustace needs to be backed because he's a top manager, and I'd imagine he's going to get backed decently enough to at least get Derby higher up in the table, in my opinion, so they won't be in the mess that they were in last season where they very nearly got relegated. They were 6-7 points adrift at one point. I think with John Eustace in charge, they're absolutely fine. He's a safe pair of hands, and I think they should be comfortable, in my opinion, Derby County. So for me, I'm a bit surprised the bookies have put them down in 19th. To be honest, I would definitely have them a bit higher up when you discuss the next teams that we'll be talking about. And those next teams coming in at 18th to 16th, they have Sheffield Wednesday in 18th position in the Championship, which, from what I'm seeing, Chanceria again hasn't paid the wages on time again. He's missed this month, or he's going to be paying it late again, which all the signs at Sheffield Wednesday are absolutely horrendous. So I'm quite surprised they've been put up in 18th. I've maybe dropped them down a couple of places. I've moved Derby above them. And it's not like, I actually feel really bad for the Sheffield Wednesday fans because they don't deserve an owner like Chancery. He's also rejecting people trying to buy the club as well, and he can't even pay the wages himself. Like, this guy is literally dragging Sheffield Wednesday through the absolute mud. And you look at what's happened with Reading. Obviously, they've been taken over, thank God, but you can't help but think Sheffield Wednesday could be in a situation like that. It's not out of the possibility, out of the realm that Sheffield Wednesday could fall really badly, and it is, as I say, sad to see. And this could be a season where you look at what's going on behind the scenes. Danny Rowwood as well, we don't know what's going to happen with him, if he's going to stay or what, because other clubs have kind of look like they're appointing different managers to Danny Rowe. The place that we were expecting him to go, maybe he's not going, maybe he might go to Germany, but there's so much up in the air. And Danny Rowe's already gone out and kind of spoken, and basically the way that he's spoken is that he doesn't want to be at Sheffield Wednesday. Really, he wants to have a fresh challenge, which Sheffield Wednesday fans can't really argue. I don't know what's going on. Like, for me to have them that high up, I would put Sheffield Wednesday down a few places just due to that. The off-the-pitch issues. It's just an absolute disaster at Sheffield Wednesday. And as I say, I hope it gets fixed with Chancery. I hope he ends up somebody ends up buying the club and Chancery actually sells up. But you can't help but think it's a bit of a disaster time for Sheffield Wednesday. Blackburn, I think this is pretty bang on 17th. I'd maybe put them up a couple of places, but I think that's in and around the similar place to Blackburn. I spoke before, I do think if Ishmael starts the season slow, things could potentially go wrong at Blackburn, but I don't think they'll get relegated. I think they'll be in and around lower mid-table where the bookies have predicted them, so I think it's a valid prediction. Ishmael, by the way, did a great job at the end. He turned it around, and the whole atmosphere at Blackburn when John Eustace left, obviously he was coming into a tricky situation. He started very slowly, started absolutely woefully. That's an understatement. But fair play to Ishmael for turning it around. I hope he does well this season at Blackburn, because I really do rate Ishmael as a manager, and as a kind of an underdog team in Blackburn, which they are, I think that kind of suits Ishmael. Look at the job that he did at Barnsley. He can potentially recreate that at Blackburn. Who knows? And you think, there's so many teams that I think, as I say, are at such a similar level in the Championship. They can all be in and around anywhere. And Blackburn very nearly got playoffs last season, so you wouldn't be 100% shocked if they were up and around there again. But I would expect them to be kind of mid-table, in my personal opinion. Now, Hull City in 16th is kind of surprising to me. I'm not going to lie. With obviously the ownership he's an absolute nutcase by the looks of the guy. I mean, he's got rid of Liam Rosenior after almost getting playoffs. Obviously, he had a very good squad, yes, but I still think it was a very harsh sacking on Liam Rosenior. And then you have the Ruben Sellers. He got appointed to Hull City to literally keep that club up. That was the role of the job. Keep this club in the Championship. And yes, he stumbled to safety in the end, but if you look at the whole balance and the whole basis of when he was in charge, Hull were pretty much like a top half team, at least like lower mid table at the best, at least like top half, I'd say though. So like to sack him after that with the squad that he's got, obviously it's a completely different squad to the squad that Liam Rosenior had. So harsh on Ruben Sellers, and genuinely, if I'm a Championship club or a top end League One club looking to appoint a new manager, I'll be going straight for Ruben Sellers. He will be the number one option, or one of the number one options in my personal opinion. So I think it's very silly from Hull City to sack him. And as I say, if Hull City start the season poorly, then you look at it and think, they could potentially, the fans will be up in an absolute uproar, and you think maybe relegation battle for Hull City. Now I think 16th for me is a little bit high in terms of the bookies prediction. I'd probably put them a little bit lower down, because I do think they could struggle with the whole atmosphere at the club if things do start poorly. But we'll see how the kind of how the ownership actually back the new manager that comes in to Hull City. Now on to 15th to 13th, and these three teams have actually all got the same odds, so they're basically, I don't know if they're putting alphabetical order in the way they've predicted it, but honestly, I think it's a bit of a crazy one from the bookies right here, in my personal opinion, in terms of these odds right here. Also as well, if you enjoyed the video, please do hit subscribe on the channel. As I say, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so please do help me out. If you're watching to this point, please do hit subscribe. But we'll start off with Swansea City, where I think what they're saying there, Swansea will be basically 15th is what they're saying. If Swansea City, I think Swansea City in 15th is a bit crazy. They're thinking they're going to have a worse season in terms of positional wise than last season, which I don't think is going to be the case. I think Swansea, the whole atmosphere at the club, the way they finish the season, the new manager coming in, the transfers that they're already making, they're already starting to stamp their authority on the transfer market. To put them in 15th, I honestly think is just wild. Like I would at least have Swansea in top 12 at a minimum, probably top 10. I'd be putting Swansea. I really think they can have a playoff push this season. So I think they'll be in and around it. I think to put them in 15th is absolutely wild from the bookies. I completely disagree with that. In 14th, we actually have Stoke City. Now, the thing is with Stoke, we've obviously got a good manager, in my opinion, in Mark Robbins, who's done a fantastic job at Coventry over the years. And they've got some decent players in their team. Look at Berger in there. You've got a very talented squad, and a young squad as well, which can definitely improve. But it's Stoke City. Like, I think the highest position since they've got relegated from the Championship is 14th. That's where the bookies have them. And I think it's a little bit high. I do think it's a little bit high. Maybe put Stoke down a couple of places into kind of lower mid-table, maybe like 16th, 17th. But I do think Stoke will be fine for relegation. Mark Robbins is a safe pair of hands, but it feels like it's an absolute penitentiary for managers and players who went for Stoke where things just don't seem to work out. No matter what they do, it just doesn't seem to work. So I think Stoke will be fine for relegation, but I do think 14th is maybe a little bit high from the bookies. This one is probably, in my opinion, the worst out of the lot. Millwall in 13th. Absolutely wild. Like, they were very, very close to getting playoffs last season. And they're a squad that definitely has the potential to kind of take it up another level. And to put them in 13th is absolutely wild. And I think they got a good striker in Ivanovic, who at the back end of the season was performing really well. He's still only very, I think maybe 21. Maybe I'm wrong in saying that, but he's definitely a very young striker. And the striker position in the Championship is a position where we don't really have a wealth of talent. And you look at a player there in Ivanovic, if he can kind of replicate the form that he had in the back end of last season, bring it into this season, you're talking about a player that's going to have interest from a lot of different clubs. So big potential with him. Don't know what's going to happen with Tanganga, if he's going to stay or go, but Tanganga at the moment at the back, solid defender. You've got one of the best defenders in the Championship. You've got a real good squad there, which has potential, I think, to really push for the playoffs. So I think the bookie's putting him in 13th. I honestly say, I think it's absolutely wild from them. Now going on from 12th to 10th, we do have Watford, who are actually in 12th, which for me, it could go one or two ways for Watford, to be honest. It could go really well, or it could go disastrously badly. The bookies are kind of put it in the middle. For 12, but I personally think that's a little bit high. I'd be putting Watford further down, in my opinion. To have Watford in I know they've got the same odds as Millwall, 12 to 1, but to have them the same odds, or the same positional, basically, place as Millwall, for me, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, I genuinely think it's ridiculous. I wouldn't be putting Watford that high. Tom Cleverley did an unbelievable job with a squad that realistically is a very, very average squad in the Championship. He got the best out of a lot of the players. He was bringing players through, and he really was. I think he was kind of building something at Watford, but obviously the Watford hierarchy, the Pozzos, disagree with that. And as I say, we'll see how it goes for Watford. It could go very badly. It could go very well. I wouldn't be putting them in 12th, in my opinion. Now, Wrexham at 8 to 1 are in 11th, which, and obviously right now you look at their squad and it's nowhere. You wouldn't be putting them in 11th on their current squad, but obviously a lot of people are predicting Wrexham to go big in the transfer market. You're already looking at the names that they're linked with. Tom Kearney on 50 grand a week. Danny Ings, Aaron Cresswell. There's also other players as well. Like Jamie Vardy's been linked before as well. There's a lot of players. I think Johnny Evans being linked. It's just everybody. And Ben Davis even. There's constant links for Premier League players going to Wrexham. They're going to continue that model that they've kind of built with bringing in players from the league abroad, very experienced players, potentially over the hill, but got that kind of experience. They can still do a very good job at the level that they're at. So, Wrexham, it's an interesting one. It's obviously just basically like a wait and see. I don't think they'll be anywhere near relegation with probably the amount of signings and the kind of wages they're going to be paying and the calibre of player they're going to be bringing in. I'd imagine they won't be near relegation. Maybe 11th is a little bit high right now, but we'll have to wait and see. But in the Championship, as I said, there's not a lot of ability difference and quality difference between teams. So Wrexham, with that momentum, could definitely take them into having a very decent season. Bristol City in 10th. Obviously, Liam Manning looks to be on his way to Norwich, which is a bit of a disaster. I'm seeing maybe Rob Edwards getting appointed, but I don't know what. We'll have to wait and see who gets appointed at Bristol City. But a lot depends on if they keep Jason Knight, in my opinion. I think Jason Knight is a top Championship player who could definitely make the step up, in my opinion, to a decent Premier League team. I really do think he's ready. So we'll see if he ends up moving on or staying. But Bristol City, I do expect a little bit of a drop-off. I do expect them to head back to mid-table. Welcome back to the mid-table leagues, Bristol City. We definitely missed you for that one season. They had a great season last year. Liam Manning did a fantastic job. Will they be able to replicate that with other teams coming up that are very strong and other teams that are also going to be bolstering their squads? I'm not so sure. So for me, I do think Bristol City will have a slight drop-off, and I think probably 10th prediction from the bookies is quite accurate. Moving on to now the top 9, from 9th to 7th. In 9th, they've got West Brom, which is pretty much where they finished last season, around about 9th, maybe it was 10th, somewhere around there anyway. They've got West Brom finishing in a very similar position. Now, for me, West Brom are a club in the Championship that absolutely have to be competing for the playoffs. The bookies have got them competing for the playoffs. They've got them missing out. They need work doing in the transfer window. They obviously let go of a few players as well. Some of the players have been around for a while as well. In Dean Garner, Jai's gone, John Swift has gone as well. They've lost a few players, but they're players that can definitely be replaced. And it probably, you'd say, was right for those players to move on just because they've been there for so long. And obviously, West Brom didn't have a great season, especially under Tony Mowbray at the back end of the season. It finished very disappointingly, where you would have thought West Brom on squad probably should have been able to get in the playoffs. When you look at maybe Bristol City getting in, them and Middlesbrough, I think, underperforming, really one of them should have got themselves into the playoffs. So 9th, I do think they'll be in and around the playoffs. I think they'll be fighting for the playoffs. So I'd put them in a very similar position to 9th, maybe a couple of places higher, but I think I'd probably still have them just about missing out on the playoffs. Now, Norwich City, obviously looks like they're going to be appointing Liam Manning. Very good appointment. A lot up in the air with Norwich with what's going to be going on. Obviously, Josh Sargent is going to have a lot of interest in him over the course of the window, you'd imagine. Borja Sainz will probably be on his way as well. But then you look at it, the fee that you're going to get for Borja Sainz is probably going to be, 10 to 15 million. I think he's only got maybe a year or two left of his contract, maybe a year. Maybe they get between 10 and 15 million for Borja Sainz. Sargent, you'll probably be looking at maybe 20. If they sell both, then that's 35 million. And Norwich got a lot of money to splash. With a new manager coming in, I think Norwich are going to be showing a lot of ambition in the transfer market. I think they're going to try and replace if they do sell, and I think Norwich will do pretty well this season. Actually, with the appointment of Liam Manning, it's given me a lot more confidence in them, and I do think they'll be in and around the playoffs come the end of the season. They'll have a much better season than what they had last season, in my personal opinion. Now, Leicester, we're looking at a potential 12-point deduction. That's the reason why. If they didn't have the 12-point deduction, they'll be right up there. I still think Leicester in 7th, even if they get, I've said this before, I think if they get a 12-point deduction, I still think they'll be in the playoffs. When you look at the squad that they've got, yes, they're losing Vardy, and they're losing a couple of other players, but nothing too major, maybe Ndidi as well. But you look at the squad, there's such a big gap between the Premier League and the Championship. And Leicester, by the way, finished above Ipswich, to finish on double the points Southampton finished on. It's not a terrible squad in the Championship. Other than the Premier League, it's nowhere near good enough. But I do think in the Championship, this team can absolutely compete. And even with a 12-point deduction, I actually think they can still get into the playoffs. So that's my opinion there. Maybe that's controversial. Who knows? I mean, Leicester predict to finish outside of the top 6 according to the bookies, which is interesting. But I personally think even with a 12-point deduction, Leicester will still be in and around it, the playoffs anyway, come at the end of the season. I do think they'll get in. Now moving on to the top 6, where we do have Coventry, Middlesbrough and Birmingham. Coventry in 6th, Middlesbrough 5th, and then Birmingham in 4th. But they've got the odds as the same for Middlesbrough and Coventry. So starting off with Coventry, Frank Lampard did a fantastic job to guide his side to the playoffs, obviously taking over when they were 17th, something like that. Doing absolutely terribly under Mark Robbins. And controversially got appointed and did unbelievably well and absolutely proved his doubters wrong in the season. Unfortunately, it fell short for them of promotion, but I think another season in the Championship, I think they'll be well and truly ready to cement themselves in the playoffs. And people saying automatic push, I wouldn't go that far for me personally, but I think I am very confident in Coventry getting playoffs. You look at the team they've got, some real quality. Bobby Thomas at the back, very good. Van Evac, I don't know if he's staying or going or what, but quality fullback / wing back. And then you've got Matt Grimes as well, who's been one of the best signings of January, maybe the signing of the window. Such a key player for Coventry since he's come in. We all knew the impact that he'd have, and he absolutely delivered on that. As well as that, you got Jack Redoni as well. He's getting interest from Newcastle, I'm seeing, which is crazy. But top player Jack Redoni, we'll see what happens with him. But I do think they're well and truly set for the players. No, that is their minimum expectation for Coventry this season. I do really think they will do very well under Frank Lampard this season. Now, interestingly, fifth is Middlesbrough. Now, of course, they're still under the guidance of Michael Carrick, which has definitely caused a bit of a debate whether he should still be in the job or not. When you look at the money that he spent, kind of the players that he's got to work with, and the way that his side's been defensively over his whole tenure, really hasn't really been good enough. Now, I think Carrick's got a lot of potential. I do think he's a very good manager still. It's just his defensively, if you can't sort that out, and he's not going to sort out at the start of the season, then he'll be gone pretty quickly. And that's my one concern with Middlesbrough going forward in terms of this season. Now, I do think they have a squad that's very capable of getting the playoffs. So like they had a squad capable this season of getting the playoffs. Obviously, that didn't happen. They got a quality midfielder in Hayden Hackney. Hayden Hackney and Morris is such a good centre mid partnership, like top tier championship centre mid partnership. It's just at the back for Middlesbrough. They need to fix that. And if they can fix that and Michael Carrick can crack it defensively, you look at a Middlesbrough side that's got serious firepower and has potential to do very well. Will that happen? Who knows? But in fourth is actually Birmingham City, who, of course, just got promoted 111 points, and they're backing them. The bookies are really backing Birmingham to do well. We're going to expect them to spend quite a bit of money as well and bring in quite a lot of players and show some serious ambition. Of course, that's a given with Birmingham these days. I'm seeing Poku, of course, has been linked for a while, would be a fantastic signing. And you look at all the teams in the Championship, as I say, there's not a lot of quality difference between them. And Birmingham coming up, they've got the momentum. You can absolutely see why the bookies are putting them in the playoff positions and putting them in fourth, comfortable playoff place for Birmingham. And I think a lot of it also plays into the fact that, Ipswich had that back-to-back promotion from League One to the Prem. I think that's really affected the way that the bookies and people think about teams coming up from League One with positive energy. Ipswich had a very positive energy, obviously a completely different situation to Birmingham, but you can see why the bookies are putting Birmingham that high. But I do think they'll be in and around the playoffs come the end of the season. We'll see, as I say. A lot of it's also predicting their kind of transfer business as well, but the squad that they've already got is probably top half Championship, and if you add a few players to that, you're looking at a team that can really compete for the playoffs, in my opinion. And as I say, with the momentum, Birmingham could be right up there at the end of the season. Now on to the top three. So who's getting automatically promoted and who is just missing out? They've got Sheffield United as the side to miss out. Now, I am a little bit worried for Sheffield United. I'm not going to lie. With Gus Hamer's surely got to go. Like, there's no way this guy can play Championship football for another season. It's an absolute crime having this guy still in the Championship. I mean, I love to watch the guy. Obviously, it's good to have him. But in terms of Gus Hamer, for his career, for me personally, he's got to move on to a team in the Premier League or at least abroad at a top team, because I honestly think he is that good. Also, Michael Cooper as well. We don't know what's going to happen with him. See potentially with Premier League clubs potentially coming in for him. I think he again, if Trafford wasn't in the division, this guy would be talked about as a ridiculous talent, which he already is talked about, but he'd be talked about even more if he was the number one keeper. Obviously, you got Trafford as well that he's competing with in terms of best goalkeeper in the Championship this season. But I think Sheffield United will definitely be up there. They'll reinvest. They've obviously got loan players that are going back as well. I don't know what's going to happen with kind of signing them loans up permanently. I think they had obligations to buy if they got promoted, which obviously they didn't. So it's going to be a very interesting window for Sheffield United, again, like it was last summer, where they brought in a lot of players and they had a squad that needed work and they ended up doing that work and doing very well in the Championship in the end. They're going to need to kind of go again with some more potential loan players, and if they do lose their key players, they're going to have to replace very well. So Sheffield United, I can definitely see them being in and around it still, because they are a big club in the Championship. When you'd imagine they will be able to kind of they'll be able to have another good transfer window that can put them in a position to fight for potentially automatic promotion or at least get the playoffs. Which, if Sheffield United get the playoffs, it's probably another loss, because these guys cannot win a playoff campaign to save their lives. In second, I fully agree with this one. These top two I actually fully agree with. Southampton, under the guidance now of Will Still, just made a signing today. A very good centre back, only 20 years old. Absolutely rapid. He's going to be a very interesting one to watch. If he's going to be the partner to Ronnie Edwards potentially at the back for Southampton, you're looking at a very good back line right there. And you've got players at the Championship level. Yes, they might not look good enough for Premier League, but in the Championship, as I say, it's such a big difference, and these players will be top Championship players in my opinion. So I'm very much looking forward. Obviously, it depends a lot with the transfer market. They're going to get money, Southampton. If they either keep the squad that they've got and have a very strong squad ready to fight for promotion, or they sell some of the key players like a Fernandez or a Tyler Dibbin, someone like that, might sell both, but then they get a lot of money to reinvest in that squad. So I think Southampton, for me, even though they got 12 points and it looks all disastrous, I think with the new appointment of Wilson, I genuinely think things are looking quite good and looking up for Southampton. And it does just show, really, how big of a gap, with these bookies predictions alone, how big of a gap it is between the Championship and the Premier League. Because you've got a team that's like almost record-breaking bad, be straight up predicted to finish second in the Championship next season. That just shows the difference right there between the Championship and the Prem, which is just sad to see and sad to say. But they do have Ipswich as the number one team, which I reckon pretty much 99% of people will predict Ipswich to finish first. Like, I really think everyone's going to be predicting them to finish first. When you look at the team that they've got, I'm seeing that Mark Gui link from Chelsea on only a loan deal, but like, this guy has scored a goal every 48 minutes in the Europa Conference League. Yes, it's a farmers competition, but this guy was playing as a 9 for Chelsea and bagging goals every 48 minutes. And then you're going to see this guy potentially rock up in the Championship. Like, are you actually being serious? He would absolutely cook in the Championship, I have no doubt about it. A lot of Chelsea fans rate him so highly. So, obviously, Liam Delap looks like he's on his way to Chelsea. We expected him to leave. If they bring him in as a replacement, honestly, the team that they've already got, look at the amount, like, these players, they might not look that good in the Premier League, the Jack Clarks, the Jaden Philogene. Sammy Schmolitz did alright, to be fair, but Sammy Schmolitz in the Championship's a joke. Like, you got so much talent there that just, it doesn't get talked about at all in the Premier League, because obviously in the Premier League there's such a big gap. But in the Championship, these guys you'd expect them to absolutely light up the division. So I expect Ipswich to be right up there at the top end of the Championship. For me, I really think they will go on to win the league. When you look at the squad, the manager, and just everything with Ipswich Town, I really do think it's all geared towards winning the title for them this season. Anyway, that will about do for the video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like down below. Subscribe to the channel as well if you're new around here. It'd be very greatly appreciated. It takes 1 second. If you could hit subscribe, we're trying to get to 1,000. Please do help me out. And thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.